4 o'clock. Welcome to Montana's only statewide sports talk show. Broadcast on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Western Montana and across the state on SWX Television.
I like football!
Now, the 2017 Radio Sports Broadcaster of the Year on the show with back-to-back Montana Broadcaster Association awards for sports coverage and award-winning sports journalism. Here is Ryan Tutel and Colter Nuanez.
Hello, Montana. Did the Eagles get a steal on the Wentz deal? The Montana State men's basketball schedule is in full effect, and today we zero in on the Denver Broncos. It is Tutel and Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio and around the state on SWX Montana Television. Hi, how are you? Great to be with you here on this Wednesday afternoon. Glad to be on board on what is a very nice day. This is what I'm talking about, Colter. I don't know. It's summer. It's going to be summer. We got some more warm weather, but it is a little bit just hedging towards fall to me out there, and that makes me very, very happy. Just to let you know. I don't want to get it. I'm not trying to push this thing along too quickly, but I'm very happy. It's hard to know if the real thing or if the anticipation of the thing is the better, and in either case, it's all good. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, online at kurtzpolaris.com. You can find us on the World Wide Web. Perhaps you've heard of it. Perhaps you own something that accesses it. Get into the tubes and find the things on the interwebs. 1029ESPN.com. That's where you go to find our website. There you can listen to the stream. The stream's available all the time at the Listen Live tab at the website, thanks to Opportunity Bank, your local bank, your opportunity. If you want to pick up your phone and call 329-1899, that's the phone number, 329-1899, the phone number. All guests join us via the Raggage Brothers RV phone line. We are going to talk about Carson Wentz through the lens of Dak Prescott and just broadly, how much can the market bear at quarterback in the NFL? We'll get into some of that stuff. It is, boys and girls, hello, a Wednesday. We got wings for you from the Desperado Sports Tavern. We have basketball trivia. My trivia is basketball as it pertains to shoe brands and signing shoes and famous players to have signed with shoe brands. Colter, what is your trivia about today?
NBA history. It is about all-time individual statistical leaders.
That's a good
I'll even tell you, it's just assists, points, and rebounds. Just think of that. Think of the all-time leaders in assists, points, and rebounds in a career.
Okay.
During your NBA career. Should be easy.
Well, should be and are is two different things. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
We also have been, first of all, Montana State men's basketball schedule came out. I got that in my hot little hand right here, so we'll go through this. A very interesting, the first year head coach in Danny Sprinkle. What's he going to be able to put together kind of on the fly of a schedule for his team, one that kind of checks all the boxes of good competition, of seeing where you're at, of maybe getting some wins in there and all that kind of stuff. And a very interesting schedule. Going to be some good games played in Bozeman on this schedule here. So we'll go through all that stuff with you as well. And as we continue counting down to the regular season, we want to hone in on some teams in the NFL, some regionally interesting teams that have big followings in the state of Montana. And yesterday we talked about the Seahawks. I felt like we did not give the Seahawks their due because we were too busy bickering about other things, which is the kind of the way it goes. But today we may get back to the Seahawks here at some point, but we will do the Denver Broncos today. Shout out to Chris Tutel, big Broncos fan. My grandfather, my dad, the Tutel male lineage Broncos fans. And I think there's multiple levels of disappointment with me as a son, and one of those certainly will be the fact that I have shirked the love of the Broncos for the Green Bay Packers. Of course, I will say, in order to remain in the family, it was much more important for me to be a Packer fan than a Bronco fan. Mom, Dad's mad at you, par for the course. Mom's mad at you, you may not have a dinner or a bed to sleep in. That's kind of how it goes. So we will get into that today as well. We'll see what other grab baggy stuff we can find to get to. How you doing, Colt? Are you feeling good? You having a good day over there?
Feeling good. Sweated it out again this morning. Sweatshop's treating me good.
Look at you doing the thing, and you hung out with our mutual friend Alejandro today. Shout out!
I did shout out Alejandro
Legend.
if he's listening. Yeah, I mean, he's got the greatest office in all of Missoula.
Is it his house?
No, he's got an office right on Front Street that looks right over Dragon's Hollow and the river on the third floor. So it's just like, because it gets to see the clock tower, the bridge, everything.
The third floor, I mean, that is the tallest building in Missoula, right?
Pretty close.
The other thing we want to mention is it's Wednesday. That makes tomorrow Thursday. That means tomorrow, Coulter and I are continuing our summer tour of the city of Missoula. We're going to be at Paradise Falls tomorrow afternoon from 4 to 6. We're giving away tickets again to the Grizzly Oregon Duck football game. We got $100 worth of free beer for you to drink down there at Paradise Falls starting at 4 o'clock. So come down, hang out with us. You're on the south side of town. Maybe your commute heads down the Bitterroot. Maybe your commute comes up from the Bitterroot. Maybe you're working down there and coming back into town. Whatever. Stop in. See us there at Paradise Falls near the corner of Brooks and Reserve Street. Get yourself a nice cold Widmer Hefeweizen and get yourself filled in. And if you haven't put it in yet, go down there right now. You can go right now and put your name in the box for the tickets to go to the Grizzly Oregon Duck football game. But we will be down there live from 4 to 6 tomorrow afternoon. These have been a lot of fun. We were at Reds last week, Paradise Falls this week, and this thing continues to just sort of grow, and we continue to give tickets away to what's going to be a really awesome football game in Autzen Stadium in Eugene. So come down and hang with us at that thing tomorrow afternoon there at Paradise Falls. So Coulter, you said, hey, we got to talk about this Dak Prescott, Carson Wentz deal. And this kind of came out in the last, 24, 30 hours or so about, Carson Wentz, when he signed his deal, was a big deal. Was it $30 million a year, something like that he got? But 107 or something like that, the full contract. I mean, it's a big, big contract, and people question, well, with Carson Wentz's health and the amount that he hasn't been available in 2 consecutive postseasons that he has not been able to play in, which makes his total postseasons played in still 0. What is it? What does he have? What is, is he worth all this money? And then somebody comes out and says, no. The Eagles got wind that Dak Prescott was going to break the bank, and they said, we are not allowing Dak Prescott to set the bar for our guy, who we clearly think is better than Dak Prescott. Now we'll get into whether Dak Prescott, who is the better of these two quarterbacks.
Is that even a thing?
It is if you're Will Kane.
I mean.
And so no. I want to bring this up, though, because I want to show just the revolting nature of some commentary that gets out there. And Will Kane, people like him, people don't. I like Will Kane. I got no problem with Will Kane. I understand, I like Will Kane. And if he wants to be a Cowboys honk on some of this stuff, that's fine. But I can bring you all the what does Samuel Clemens say? There's lies, damn lies, and statistics, right? I mean, you can get the numbers to say whatever you want them to say. So we'll go through the numbers that Will Kane will offer us to show us why Dak Prescott deserves every penny, if not more, than Carson Wentz, and then we will laugh at the foolhardiness of that assertion. But in any case, Coulter, kind of set the foundation of this story, and then let's get into, we've talked about paying quarterbacks, but the way that this sort of works and the hide and seek that kind of happens team to team about how they're going to go about it, how and pay the quarterback, and also at what point is it just going to be, that it will have, as you say, break the NFL, where you will have to invest so much money to have a quarterback that it will literally be impossible to field a team of substance elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I've been talking about what this effect is going to have because. So first of all, let's start with this Dak Prescott, Carson Wentz scenario. Basically, somebody from Dak Prescott's camp leaked to somebody in the NFL who told somebody from the Eagles. I mean, this is kind of how all leaks in pro sports, especially in the NFL, everybody in the NFL talks to each other, especially about this contract sort of stuff. And they leaked that Dak Prescott, his number was $37 million. That's what he was going to demand for an annual salary. This is before Carson Wentz had re-signed. And so the Eagles scrambled and basically put together a lot of people thought it was a hasty contract given just kind of the uncertainty around Carson Wentz, because you have a guy who was perhaps the MVP his second year in the league if he wouldn't have gotten hurt. But then your team rides the momentum of a whole bunch of other things, including his backup, Nick Foles, all the way to the Super Bowl title. So then it becomes questionable, okay, is Carson Wentz expendable or not? I mean, we just won a Super Bowl without him. So where are we at with him? I don't know. And then you still have the injury looming over your head, and then there's all this stuff about his leadership and him in the locker room. But aside from all of that, the Eagles scrambled quickly. And there was no, from the outside looking in, it just seemed like, oh, they're just signing their franchise guy. But that was a quick process, and I wonder why they had the confidence to do that, given all the question marks that surround Carson Wentz. And it ended up being a 4-year, $128 million contract. It works out to be about $32 million annually, $67 million guaranteed, $17 million signing bonus. So Carson Wentz got a lot of money. And, I mean, he's the number 2 overall pick. And, again, he was likely the MVP before he got hurt in his second year in the league. So it's not as if this is a huge reach. It's not like you're giving Blake Bortles $130 million. You know, it's not like you're even giving a guy like Matt Ryan on the other side of his career this kind of money. I mean, Carson Wentz is one of the 6 guys in the league that deserves this kind of money. He is, just based on his ability now and his continued elevated ceiling. But when you hear that the Eagles heard that Dak Prescott was going to ask for $37 million, now it shows you that this was an incredibly smart move, because the thing that we're learning now about the NFL is that when you're a quarterback who has any sort of resume, you're going to get paid. And if you're playing for the Dallas Cowboys, you got a guy. I mean, Jerry Jones likes his guys more than any other owner in the league likes his guys. And Jerry Jones can figure out how to pay his guys. And I get the indication that Jerry Jones loves Dak Prescott. And I would not be surprised if Jerry Jones is crazy enough to give Dak Prescott $37 million. But if and when he does, then just think of the quarterbacks that are in the league right now that are on their rookie contracts. I mean, if Dak Prescott's worth $37 million, Baker Mayfield's worth $50. If Dak Prescott's worth $37 million, Patrick Mahomes worth $65. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, though, I mean, would you not say that Patrick Mahomes is nearly twice the prospect of Dak Prescott right now?
He's 10 times.
That's what I'm saying. He just had the greatest season. If you just straight
1-to-1 map,
whatever, man. If you throw 51 touchdowns in your second year, then you're getting all the money that there is to make.
I mean, it's his first year
in his actual first year as a starter. Yes, you set. Did he set the NFL record this year? Did he break Peyton Manning's record, or was he's the second guy to ever throw 50?
Second guy to throw 50.
But he broke Marino's previous record, but he didn't quite get to Peyton Manning.
Yeah. He has some time.
Whatever, man. That season was ridiculous. I mean, Patrick Mahomes took the NFL by storm like almost no one has taken any pro sport by storm in a long time. And so, therefore, again, Dak Prescott's fine. I think Dak Prescott's tough. I think he's got good leadership skills, and I actually think he's a really good fit for what the Cowboys want. And I always thought Dak Prescott was a little bit underrated coming out of college, too. All that said,
you and I both did.
Right, but again, Dak Prescott's just a middle of the league quarterback. He doesn't have that much of a ceiling. Dak Prescott's best season is as good as Dak Prescott's going to be, which is good enough for you to go 13-3. But he's not Patrick Mahomes. He's not Aaron Rodgers. He's not Drew Brees. He's not even Carson Wentz. And so I just think that if he gets that, it's going to fundamentally alter the entire landscape of the league.
I mean, yes and no. I just can't continue to comprehend how just in virtue of being the most recent guy to get a new contract, you are also thereby entitled to being the highest paid guy, just period. Yet this is the way it goes. And I understand why contracts continue to increase. That is obvious enough with the revenue and every year the total salary is increased. So I get all of that. But yes.
And the value of the franchise is increased.
Sure. But I mean, just in terms of what the payroll is, it is as a matter of fact more every single year by some number. The difference is the percentage of increase, particularly at quarterback, is outstripping the percentage of increase of the actual salary by double, triple, quadruple year after year. And obviously at some point the parabola arc that is increasing for quarterbacks is significantly steeper than that which is increasing for the payroll in general. And at some point it becomes unsustainable, aka breaks the league. I mean, the league won't break. It will simply reset. It's just like any sort of economic system.
But it's going to ironically devalue the position of quarterback because so many guys are not going to have the players around them. You're going to do what the trend is, and that's to invest in your quarterback. But the more that every team in the league does that, the less resources they have, unless they move the cap tremendously up. You know what I'm saying? Like as soon as a middle of the road team invests in the quarterback on this sliding scale, now they instead of actually getting better because you just invested in your franchise quarterback, you got the same and or worse because you can't buy anybody to put around him. The Packers are the perfect example.
Well, they're not the perfect example. They have been mismanaged brutally in the last half decade, period.
It's actually insane.
It's insane. It's insane. So the Packers are actually a bad example of this. They're a good example of what not to do if you are trying to run an NFL franchise. They're not a good example of what we're talking about. But there will be good examples of that out there. But again, that will be the market reset. It's not going to devalue the quarterback. I mean, the quarterbacks will get paid less fundamentally. So if you want to say that that's devaluing it, it's overvalued already. And it will become more overvalued. And then at some point, it will become more in line with its true value because you will realize, what you're able to get at quarterback relative to the other positions financially.
Right. But this could march towards a labor stoppage. Unless they adjust the cap, because when you're okay, so the cap has continued to go up incrementally, but quarterback salaries are almost doubling over the last 5 years. I mean, there was no player in the NFL making more than $20 million 6 years ago. No player. Now there's like 19 starting quarterbacks that are making that. So when you have a cap that's slid up to say $110 million. And now 35, this year, Russell Wilson and Ben Roethlisberger and Aaron Rodgers are all going to make $33.5 million. The percentage of that, it has to become proportional. You have to raise the cap by, the cap raises between 3 and 5% every year. You have to just bite the bullet and make the cap raise 20%, because if you let one player get 1/3 of the cap, now if this matriculates all the way down to now every single quarterback, say all of a sudden, to be a starting quarterback,
I understand.
Right, if you're say it gets to the point where the worst starting quarterback in the league is making $22 million because Patrick Mahomes is making $60 million, then that means if the cap stays the same, everybody else to be able to fill out a 53-man roster is going to have to be making $1 million or less. And if that happens, it's not going to happen. It can't happen. No. Because if it did happen, the rest of the players would just strike.
What would happen in that moment is not any of that. What would happen in that moment is you will find a quarterback who will work for you for $10 million, and he will be the worst quarterback in the league, and it will be fine because you will have the best player at every other position, and you will wreck the league that way. And that then will become the copycat way to go. And so
could be interesting.
Let me tell you what's going to happen, Coulter. Here's what would happen if this continues sort of unchecked by this. What's going to happen is Dak Prescott's going to be paid $37 million because his owner loves him very much. Jerry Jones loves his players or whatever, and says, this is my guy, he's going to do it, and will not acknowledge the fact that he's the 16th best quarterback in the NFL. But then what will happen is when the 13th best quarterback in the NFL goes in and demands $41 million from a more, shall we say, financially minded, team owner, and they go, well, no, we will not pay you that. And he'll go, okay, well, then I'm going to go to free agency, and they will say, thank you for your services. Have a nice day. They will draft a new quarterback, but then that quarterback will be on the market, the 13th best, and no one will pay him $41 million. And he, at some point, will have to accept not just less than $41 million, less than the $37 million that's already been paid to a quarterback that's worse than him, because no one is going to accept the fact that, or actually everybody will accept the fact that Dak Prescott, if this is the example, has been grossly overpaid. And so that is one way that this can reset, not just, oh, yes, we're just going to keep blank check writing in virtue of that's what the quote market is, because it's not what the market is. At some point, some owner is going to say, well, no, we don't believe in this market. Some general manager, we don't accept this market. We are going to do this differently. And then it can, and if they're successful, that's the other key. You got to win. And if you can, then then that will reset the market, quote unquote, naturally.
Except for what do we know to be true? That by and large, the trends that you are talking about will occur, but someone just won't abide by the trends. Some idiot will give a terrible quarterback a ridiculous deal. I mean, the Mets are still paying Bobby Bonilla. Terry Rozier got a $75 million contract from the Charlotte Bobcats. The Charlotte Bobcats think they're going to upgrade with Terry Rozier.
Aren't they the Hornets?
Whatever they are, they're so irrelevant, I don't even know what their mascot is.
Come on.
Okay, regardless, all I'm saying is the bad contracts have never stopped flowing in the NFL. Kirk Cousins, $86 million. I mean, somebody's going to do it. Somebody's going to do it. And there's always going to be a team, just like the Vikings were last year, that think, man, we are one piece away. If we could just get a good quarterback, and they'll go pay an Andy Dalton level guy like he's Drew Brees.
Okay, but a team deciding to do that is fine. But what happens when you have 2 or 3 of these guys on the market? You know what I mean? Like the presumption that they'll just go out and do that or say, no, we will either draft somebody or take our chances with a rookie or take our chances with a second-year guy and take that contract over who's still on a rookie contract and pay everybody else and see what happens there. I mean, you don't need it to happen absolutely everywhere. Really, all you need is one counterexample. You need one team. You don't need one dumb team to say yes. You need one smart team to say no. And that will happen at some point if this keeps going on. Now, we are staring a labor stoppage square in the face with the CBA. But it doesn't have, honestly, that much to do with this, what we're talking about. It has to do with a whole bunch of other things from concussions. It does have to do with total salary.
Absolutely. And you want to know what it has to do with? The summer we just experienced in the NBA.
Yeah, I mean, that is dumb. That is dumb beyond words. You're right, but it's dumb beyond words. Because
but like when
you
these
picked the wrong sport to be good at if you wanted to get paid in a sport where you have 51 teammates, 52 teammates.
It's true. That's true, but the fact of the matter is that the TV contract for the NFL and the value of the franchises are just exponentially greater than in the NBA. So if the NBA, I get the proportionality of the roster. Here's the thing. There's been this narrative in America for a really long time that has dissipated quite a bit in the last, I would say, 10 to 15 years because of the knowledge that we have now. But forever, those greedy athletes. That's all you heard.
Yeah.
I mean, Eric Dickerson, the greediest dude in the world. Why doesn't Eric Dickerson just sign? You know, they offered him $7 million. Why doesn't he just sign? And now I think that's dissipated a little bit. But the irony of it all is that if you really talk about the proportionality of the industry and you are working for a business and you are an asset for that business and you are making money, especially if you're a superstar in the NBA. What I'm getting at is that LeBron James is grossly overpaid if you really think about it. Like LeBron James is worth $100 million a year to the Lakers. There's no question. And that it's the same situation.
Grossly underpaid?
That's what I'm saying. He's grossly underpaid.
I think you said overpaid.
No, he's grossly underpaid. Yes. LeBron James, I mean, the superstars in the NBA, as much as this last 3 months was wild, and these guys are getting so much money, they're really worth that. They're worth more than that in terms of what they bring to their franchises. And I think that the NFL, especially quarterbacks, could have an argument for that. I mean, what was Patrick Mahomes' season last year worth to the Chiefs? I mean, $250 million in terms of the marketing and the exposure they got. I mean, they had people from coast to coast talking about this dude who's this phenom. I mean, I don't know. It's going to be so fascinating to see how it all works out because I really do think that the NFL guys, they have a legitimate argument when it comes to the concussion stuff, when it comes to the guaranteed money. And I do think that, there is a lot of market share that you can talk about there. But when you look at the TV money combined with the amount of revenue these guys are bringing in, most of them are underpaid when you really put it into proportion.
I don't disagree with any of that. My only issue is just don't compare yourself to another sport because the disanalogies are completely there. If the guarantee, like if you want to say, hey, baseball gets 100% guaranteed money and it doesn't matter anything and that's what we want in this sport as well, that's fine. You should argue for that. But not because you're like baseball, just because that's a better contract situation for you, particularly in one where you have a much higher physical risk to your well-being than they do in any other sport. So that I get, and the total, effectively saying that 49% of the revenue is what's going to create the the basis for what the salary cap is going to be in a given year, that's a fleecing. So what you're saying is your entire roster is worth less than half of what you get as an owner, just from the revenue, to say nothing of the increasing value of your asset, which is the team, and so on and so forth. I mean, that's insane. And by the way, it's not. I don't know that it's different in the NBA or in baseball, for that matter. But if you want, something to change, if you want to make actual more money and see giant contracts, that's where you need to eat into it. Is to say it's fully guaranteed. And by the way, now 70% of the influx, and of course the owners will just simply not go for that because they want their billions, not their millions. And this is of course where, the construction workers and the radio guys and the, truck drivers of the world just start to just go ballistic.
Well, totally. But at the same time, it's like you said, choose a different sport. It's like, well, professional athletes, not only are they not earning the piece of the pie that maybe they deserve, but also they're in proportion to their skill over the average person is so far much greater. I mean, like the greatest construction guy in the world, the greatest radio talk show host, he's not that much better than the average guy.
Yes, I am.
LeBron James is so much better at basketball than any of the normal people on the earth. It's not even close.
Yes, it is. It is a truly irreplaceable. I mean, this is the thing. Everybody's yelling at Ezekiel Elliott, and look, I got plenty of knocks for Ezekiel Elliott. But if you say, hey, every person that calls in and goes, if I don't go to my job, I don't get a new contract or what else. Well, guess what? If you don't go to your job, there's somebody else that can do your job.
Right.
No one can do Ezekiel Elliott. You could have another running back there for the Cowboys. No one can do what Ezekiel Elliott can do as a quarterback or as a running back, excuse me. And so that's just like that is the leverage that he has. He is literally the one and only guy that can do what he does.
We'll get into some of this Will Kane stuff in a little bit, but I gotta take us off the tracks a little bit because we do have to talk about this quickly. The one guy that we have not spoken about in terms of the quarterbacks is the guy that has actually not been a part of this trend, has removed himself from this trend intentionally, and that's why he's got one for the thumb and one for the index finger. Tom Brady's got 6 rings. A lot of it has to do with the fact that he has signed basically $16 to $18 million contracts for 10 years. He has been willing to be paid in the teens or even as low as, I think, 19th one year in terms of annual salary amongst quarterbacks, even though he's the GOAT. He just signed a 2-year, $35 million deal. So I have two-year, $70 million deal, $35 million a year. So he will be the second highest paid quarterback in the NFL behind Russell Wilson in terms of annual salary. More than Aaron Rodgers, more than Ben Roethlisberger. Deservedly so. I mean, he just won his 6th Super Bowl. But I want to ask you this. First of all, what do you read anything into Brady finally getting his chunk of the change? And we've talked extensively. You and I have talked. You and I and Tucker Sargent have talked. Tucker Sargent and I have talked on this show about the longevity or lack thereof between the relationship between Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. There's been all sorts of stuff that's come out internally, and it is the Patriots to the T that they had the biggest offseason scandal in the league last year and then went and won the Super Bowl. That's the Patriots to the T. But it's my opinion that relationship is wearing thin. I think that the TB12 stuff is a dividing factor. I think that Robert Kraft has a person that he wants, and I think that person is the quarterback, not the coach. But I also think that there could be a fracturing of the marriage at some point. So Tom Brady flipping his style and doing something completely different, as well as putting his house on the market within the same week. What do you think? What do you read into it?
Nothing. Less than nothing.
Why would Brady be content to stack the roster with talent for 20 years and then not anymore?
First of all, the roster has not been stacked with talent for 20 years.
Really?
Yes, really.
they've had more pretty good players than anybody in the league. That's the Patriots model.
That's right.
Like if you're playing video games, the Patriots got
a bunch of 68%ers.
They got 30 guys ranked in the 80s, and they got one guy ranked 99.
That's right. And they got one coach ranked 101.
It's a pretty good point.
Okay. First of all, before we get on the look at the generosity of Tom Brady, when your wife does 10 times what you do.
Oh, yeah.
You're already working for free.
Oh, yeah. And then when you're getting double your salary for spritzing your Stetson.
I mean, he plays Colter, he plays football for one reason. He loves it. Loves it.
Does he?
Yes.
I think he loves winning. And I think he loves proving people wrong.
Okay, fine. But the avenue to do that is football. I mean, whatever he loves, it is whether it's the game or whether it's all of that stuff that you're talking about. That's why he does it, because he's taking such great risk for all. I don't care if he's making $50 million. It's not even. It's not the top 5 things that are income for he and his family. Okay, and so he is out there doing this because he wants to be out there doing this. So if he played for $0 or for $50 million, that is inconsequential to him playing. And the, quote, relationship between him and Belichick has been worn thin since Jimmy Garoppolo got drafted, if not before that. And so, but you know what? It doesn't matter. These relationships, there's nothing to know about them. Belichick's the coach. Brady's the player. It's the way it's always been. They can like each other or hate each other. Guess what? They're going to put a game plan together, and they're both better than anyone that they're going against every single Sunday. And so it doesn't matter if they like each other. It does not matter.
I agree it doesn't matter if they like each other until there's a decision made to go one direction or the other.
There is no decision to make. Brady will be out of the league in 2 years.
You think?
Who cares?
I think that Tom Brady is such a narcissistic freak that is the number one reason. It's the sole reason why he plays, why he wins, and I think I don't think Tom Brady thinks he is even close to done. Even close to done.
What does it matter? What do you I mean, what
because if Tom Brady continues to leverage the money that he's making now, if he really is going to be a $35 million a year guy, now he does have a lot more say, because now you can't have 80 rankings.
He's got no say because he's chosen not to have any say his whole career. Belichick is the GM.
I understand, but
nobody's going to Belichick.
Who's Kraft like better?
It doesn't matter.
Who's his son? Who's his long forgotten son?
It does not matter. Bob Kraft will never, ever get rid of Bill Belichick, because Bill Belichick...
What if Bill Belichick just walks away? What if he retires?
If he retires, that's a whole different...
What if he's tired of Tom Brady's antics? Think about how tired you get of people that you love. That you love more than life itself, just from being around them all the time. Imagine how tired you would be of Tom Brady at this point.
Not nearly as tired as you would be of walking away from the New England Patriots and going, you know what, I can't deal with this anymore, and then not being in football. I mean, there is nothing to know here. Nothing. Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. 329-1899, the phone number. It's time for a Wing It Wednesday.
We're going to come back to this quarterback stuff in the third segment. We'll tell you about Montana State's basketball schedule in the Sports Center, but we're coming back to this Dak, Carson Wentz, and some contract stuff too. We got an eager caller out there. I've been getting texts. He wants to call in and give us his 2 cents.
Okay, well, you can call in a minute, or you can call in now and do some trivia. 329-1899. It's time for a Wing It Wednesday. I got some questions for you about shoe contracts. Who got them, who signed them, and with what companies. 329-1899. It will not be as hard as it sounds. Wing It Wednesday, give away some Desperado Sports Tavern wings, the best wings in the city. So call 329-1899 next. Canyon River Golf Club is a must for any golfer in western Montana. Tucked away in a spectacular setting along the Clark Fork River in East Missoula, Canyon River offers one of Montana's best championship golf experiences. And Canyon River is happy to announce their new fleet of golf carts, which include the Shark Experience, an interactive GPS giving dynamic distances and touchscreen interaction to help you play your best. Plus, with Bluetooth, radio, and surround sound, you can enjoy yourself between holes too. Book online at CanyonRiverGolfClub.com. Missoula's best golf, Canyon River.
Now, the Montana Club's happy hour features BOGO beverages. Our expertly mixed cocktails, microbrews, domestics, and wine are buy one, get one free 7 days a week from 3 to 5:30. Stop in on Friday for Montini night. Sip on a top shelf martini for only $6, 5:30 to close. When you've worked hard all day and are ready to relax, the Montana Club has got you covered with BOGO happy hour 7 days a week, 3 to 5:30 on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
No matter how far you may go, there's always one just down the road. Town Pump, ooh, pump it up, pump it up.
When summer nights are a little long, Town Pump will wake you up. Swing into Town Pump on your way to work and grab a high brew 11-ounce coffee for you and a friend. Buy one, get one free. Stay hydrated in the Montana heat with Arrowhead 1 liters. Buy one, get one free at Town Pump.
Town Pump, right down the road. Pump it up, oh yeah.
The Polaris Factory Authorized Clearance is here. The world's best-selling off-road lineup is priced to move with financing as low as 3.99% and rebates up to $3,500. Live life wide open in a high-performance RZR. Tackle anything from mountains to mud holes on a legendary Sportsman ATV. Get more done with a hard-working Ranger or take on any task or trail in a versatile Polaris General. The best deals of the year are happening now. See Polaris.com or your Polaris dealer for rebates up to $3,500 and financing as low as 3.99% APR for 36 months during the Polaris Factory Authorized Clearance. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula and Highway 83 in Sealy. Kurtz Polaris is now showcasing all of the new 2020 Polaris off-road vehicles. To be the first to get a great deal on brand new state-of-the-art Polaris vehicles at Kurtz Polaris. Online at KurtzPolaris.com. Rebates valid in U.S. through 9/30/19 on new 2015 through 2019 vehicles. Financing offer valid on 2015s through 2020s. Subject to credit approval. Offers vary by model. See dealer for details. Always wear a helmet. Never drink and ride.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon, Ryan Tutel, Colton Nuanez, ESPN Sports Center. The Montana men's basketball team landed its latest Pac-12 transfer on Tuesday with the commitment of Nassim Gaskin, a 6'3", 175-pound guard from Oakland. The former three-star recruit was ranked as high as number 37 in the state of California coming out of Bishop O'Dowd High School. As a junior, he led his team to the CIF state championship playoffs by shooting a 55% from the floor. As a senior, Gaskin was an all-state honorable mention after averaging 14.5 points, 6.7 rebounds, and 1.7 assists per game.
Gaskin redshirted last season at Utah after choosing the Utes over offers from Montana, Wyoming, Santa Clara, and St. Mary's. UM head coach Travis DeCuire has landed other Pac-12 transfers like Ahmad Rory, Donovan Dorsey, and Kendall Manuel.
Montana State released its men's basketball schedule for its first season under Danny Sprinkle. The slate includes an opener at Utah State, a trip to Greensboro, North Carolina to play North Carolina-Greensboro Holiday Tournament, and a game at Grand Canyon State. The Bobcats play 3 straight home games to wrap up November, hosting Colorado Christian, Green Bay, and South Dakota State. MSU finishes the non-conference at North Dakota State and at Cal State Bakersfield before opening Big Sky play.
This ESPN Missoula Sports Center is brought to you by Aspen Sound.
Best frontman in history.
Robert Plant.
Sorry.
Got a lot of feedback on that segment, and they said that we went awry.
Yeah.
Because we just opinionated way too much. It should have been an objective argument over who is actually the greatest frontman, not who our favorites are. It's all a matter of taste, right?
I mean, that there is no such thing as that separation.
I mean, I think that objectively, Robert Plant has had a significantly larger impact on music than Zach De La Rocha. Is that right or wrong? I don't know, but I think that it's unquestionable.
Who's had a larger impact and who is the best frontman are two very different questions. Utterly different. Utterly different. It's Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway, Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy. Online at kurtzpolaris.com. It is time for a Wing It Wednesday. We go to the phones. We welcome in Joe to the show. Joe, how are you? Oh, excuse me, Josh. Do we have Josh? Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, you can call me Joe if you want to.
Well, it's easier. It's one letter less. I don't have to make the SH sound. Sometimes it gets hard. Josh, good to have you here, my man. Thanks for being with us. Here's the deal. We got 3 questions for you today. If you get 2 of them right, you got yourself a basket of wings to the Desperado Sports Tavern, the best wings in the city. If you get all 3, we're going to give you a shirt as well. If you need help on any one of these, Coulter is your lifeline, all right?
Oh, I like Coulter being my lifeline. That actually will probably be helpful.
Thank you, Josh.
Josh listens to the show.
Okay.
We know he's a loyal listener if he knows the landscape of this game.
Boy, some chicken wings would really hit the spot. Tell me likey. Tell me want wingy.
All right, here we go, Josh. 3 questions for you. This is about NBA players and the shoe deals that they've signed. We're going to start with the present day. Despite not playing for the Charlotte Hornets, what famous brand did Zion Williamson sign with? Reportedly, it's a 7-year, $75 million shoe deal. What brand did he sign with?
Well, it's Michael Jordan brand. I think is it Nike?
Jordan brand is what we're going to go with. I do think it's like there's some Nike tie to it, but he kind of broke out on his own. But you are right. The Michael Jordan brand is what we're looking for. Zion Williamson, a Jordan guy. All right, very good. Question number 2 for you. After Nike got his name wrong in their pitch to him, what shoe company did Steph Curry sign with in 2013?
I mean, it's kind of pathetic that I know this, but it's I'm pretty sure it's Under Armour.
It is Under Armour, and it's not pathetic. It's outstanding. You are admired all around the state for this deep knowledge that you've got. And look at you, wings in the box for you, Josh. Very well done.
I'm just going to say this. Don't admire me for that. Please aspire to something greater.
That's the whole basis of my career. I mean, come on.
Anyway.
There's conspiracy theorists out there and people in the business that would say that the Kevin Durant to Golden State deal was incredibly heavily influenced by Nike, saying we have to get Nike in Golden State so that Steph Curry, who is one of the biggest stars in the league, doesn't then have the spotlight in terms of the brand. Nike couldn't lose. If you lose Steph Curry, you can't then let Steph Curry dominate the entire West Coast. And so a lot of people think that Nike had a huge influence on getting Kevin Durant to Golden State.
There's also a group of people who believes the world's flat. Okay, question number 3.
And alien ships.
That's right, alien ships. I mean, I'm into the alien ships. That's fine.
Hey, so am I.
The world is round. I've been around it. I never came to the edge. Third question for you. Eventually, Kobe Bryant did sign with Nike, but it was not until after he'd played in the NBA for 6 years he signed a $48 million endorsement deal coming out of high school with what shoe company, Josh?
I believe that's Adidas.
Didn't even need you, Coulter. 3 for 3. Check all the boxes. Get that man a shirt. Get him his wings. Josh, you came in here and you nailed it. Very well done, man.
You know what I was really hoping for was the trivia on the NBA career leaders.
Well,
but I appreciate the shoe deals.
Maybe here's the thing. First of all, you couldn't have hardly done better than what you did, so I don't know if you want any other trivia than that. And second of all, in an hour from now, maybe you call back and you try and double dip. Technically, you're cut off for a month.
Yeah. I don't think that's part of company policy. Only can win every 30 days.
But I think Josh, an hour from now, I'll be embroiled in a home project.
was going to say, if you're by a computer somehow, you can always go on our ESPN Facebook.
Oh, you guys will be playing in the background. Have no worry.
Okay, and if you hear the answers and you know the answers, you just want to scream them, but you're doing your home project, you can always just message them in. And if you do get them right, I will make sure that people know that Josh was going to get these NBA career questions correct.
Thank you.
Josh, very well. Hey, one more trivia question for you. Okay,
Yeah,
because I think you might know this. What NFL football team does Brett Rippon play for?
Ooh, I do know this, but I don't know that he plays for him yet. Has he made a roster?
No, I mean, yeah, nobody's made a roster technically yet, but he's on a roster. He's on.
I'm fair. I thought it was the Broncos that drafted him.
It is the Denver Broncos.
Yeah,
just keeping up on the Rippon family, Josh.
Yeah, I love the Rippon family. You bet.
Josh, excellent work, my man. Good work. We'll get you that stuff. We'll get you the wings and the shirt here. Whenever you want them, they're waiting for you.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
You
have a great day.
You too, bud. Josh.
All right, we'll see you.
Excellent work.
Mark Rippon, Brett Rippon's father, deep Missoula ties.
Yes.
His agent, Ken Sander, the late Ken Sander, my next door neighbor growing up.
Yeah.
One of the great guys that ever come out of Missoula. So, I mean, that when Mark Rippon won that Super Bowl title, and Kenny, we're talking about quarterback contracts that altered the league. When Mark Rippon got paid more than Dan Marino, that changed the face of the NFL. That $6 million contract back in the early 90s was huge because then the Broncos, because then John Elway became a free agent and the Broncos had to counter, and John Elway became the first player in NFL history to get $10 million in a single season.
When Dak Prescott makes more money than Aaron Rodgers, it's going to change the face of the league again.
Exactly.
By the way, I don't know. I've lost it. I had something good. Oh, here's what I was going to say. I don't know. I'm no scout. Okay, I take it just like everybody else takes it in terms of, you listen into, the guys who, do the projections and who they think is going to be a great quarterback and who isn't going to be a great quarterback and so forth and so on. All I know is this. Brett Rippon can rip it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that guy can spin a football.
Oh, yeah. He's been spinning it since he's in high school.
Yes.
Where's he from? Shadle Park, is that right?
Yeah, and he was at Boise.
Yeah, Boise State, yeah.
And so, look, he got no fanfare, undrafted, the whole thing. He's probably, whether he actually makes the Denver Broncos team. I mean, they drafted Drew Lock. They got Hogan in there, which we'll talk about. Maybe he can't read a defense. Maybe he's got a hitch in his giddy up and he can only do a 4 and a 6 step drop, not a 5 and a 7 step drop. I don't know what the issues are. But if you want to talk to me about a guy who can throw a football, Brett Rippon can throw a dang football. So I don't know I don't know why he's not getting, any sort of like, oh yeah, good talent.
I got a trivia question for you, but one sec here. Josh, if you're still listening, call back and give Reese your information. Reese says that you hung up before you got to get your stuff. You got to get your wings. But we'll figure it out. We'll figure it. You're a loyal listener. We'll track you down. But either way, if you can, just give him a call back. Get the info. I got a question. I got a trivia question for you. This is good.
Let's hear it.
Brett Rippon is the only quarterback in the history of high school football in the state of Washington to throw for over 600 yards in a game.
Wait, say that again now. Brett Rippon
threw for 613 yards
in a college game?
In a high school game.
Okay.
Which is the Washington State record.
Okay.
For any class.
Okay.
But there's one other guy has thrown for more than 580, threw for 589 yards.
In the state of Washington?
In the state of Washington. He now plays on the defensive line for the Montana State Bobcats. Who is it?
I was going to guess Casey Bauman.
Nope.
But no. Is it Bryce Stirk?
It is not.
Who is it?
Amandre Williams, their new buck end.
Oh, really?
He is one of the great quarterbacks in the state of Washington, but he was also one of the top DN recruits in the country, and he ended up going to the University of Washington, and now he's at Montana State. But if he this is what's so funny, is that Jeff Choate did the Troy Anderson thing last year, the whole thing that's much chronicled. And Troy Anderson was, just a great athlete with great decision-making skills, playing quarterback when he was in high school and when he was in college.
Yep.
But Troy Anderson's not a quarterback. I mean,
no.
He was good at the Class A level in Montana.
He's pretty good at
But like Amandre Williams is, first of all, Pac-12 D end.
Mm-hmm.
But he's also, he wasn't throwing for 1,200 yards like Troy Anderson was. He threw for like 4,000 yards. All I'm saying is, if you think Jeff Choate was salivating over Troy Anderson, they got Amandre Williams wearing a number so that he can play on offense too.
Let's see it.
I think it's so fascinating because it's such a dichotomy, right? Like Jeff Choate is so flexible and he gets guys in a position to succeed a lot of times. But then also, he's got multiple guys on his roster that have played like 6 or 7 different positions in college. Where else in the country is that happening?
How are you going to get settled? How are you going to get better? I mean,
Jacob Hadley's playing tight end now. The kid came in as a corner, was switched to safety before his first college game. Then he's played Will linebacker, Sam linebacker, Buck end, back to Sam. Now he's playing tight end. He should have just been playing receiver the whole time.
It's Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. Colter wants to talk more about quarterback contracts. We also got some Montana State men's basketball schedule to get to. We'll see what we cover right after this.
8 Tutel Nuanez here. Can't tell you how many times we've heard the face for radio joke since we came on SWX Television, but it's been a fun endeavor so far.
And now our esteemed producer Tommy is pushing the envelope even further. We got our own YouTube channel.
That's right. If you want to watch us every day from your computer, your tablet, your cell phone, you can check out Tutel Nuanez on YouTube.
Tutel Nuanez, live every weekday from 4 to 6 in the afternoons on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Missoula, SWX Montana statewide, and now around the planet Earth on YouTube.
Les Schwab is proud to introduce 2 of our best tires ever, just in time for summer. There's our exclusive Reputation, a high-mileage premium passenger tire we believe has the quietest, most comfortable ride ever. Or our exceptionally quiet and smooth all-season traction tire, the Open Range AT. Get up to $150 instant rebate on 4 backcountry MT or AT tires, or $50 on 4 road control passenger tires. Les Schwab Tires. Doing the right thing matters. Cannot be combined with other offers. Limited time. Terms and conditions apply. Details at leschwab.com.
On Russell, across from the fairgrounds.
Hey everybody, Ryan Tutel, and I'm here with Josh of the Advocates Injury Law Firm. Josh, there's a lot of lawyers in this area. What makes you different?
At the Advocates, we primarily focus on injury cases. That gives us the experience and the knowledge to correctly evaluate your case and work with insurance companies and other attorneys so you get exactly what you deserve to make you whole again. We take really good care of our clients, and we're going to fight for every single dollar you deserve.
Call 640-4444 or online at montanaadvocates.com. There are a lot of lawyers. You deserve an advocate. Canyon River Golf Club is a must for any golfer in western Montana. Tucked away in a spectacular setting along the Clark Fork River in East Missoula, Canyon River offers one of Montana's best championship golf experiences. And Canyon River is happy to announce their new fleet of golf carts, which include the Shark Experience, an interactive GPS giving dynamic distances and touchscreen interaction to help you play your best. Plus, with Bluetooth, radio, and surround sound, you can enjoy yourself between holes too. Book online at CanyonRiverGolfClub.com. Missoula's best golf, Canyon River.
When you got an important decision to make, like buying a new RV or manufactured home, you want to make sure you got all the facts. I'm Jim Rankage with Rankage Brothers RV. For 60 years, we've been Montana's premier RV manufacturer home dealer. And with the longevity comes a wealth of knowledge and experience. Rankage Brothers is and always has been a family business. Our promise is to be there for you before and after the sale. Visit us today at 2000 West Broadway or RankageBrothersRV.com.
What do you get when you mix every NFL preseason game? Cold beer and the best wings in Missoula? The Desperado Sports Tavern. The Desperado is Missoula's premier Southside sports tavern. With 32 HD TVs, there's not a chance you'll miss a second of every NFL preseason game. It's time to start watching your favorite players and building your fantasy team at the Desperado. That's cold beer, NFL preseason, the best wings in Missoula, and you at the Desperado Sports Tavern. Located on Russell, across from the Y.
Tutel and Nuanez. Listen to the podcast on the TuneIn Radio app or on iTunes. 1029ESPN.com.
At sunrise, I fight to stay asleep, 'cause I don't want to leave the comfort of this place. 'Cause there's a hunger.
Scott Stapp. Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. We're broadcasting live from the Chris Polaris Studios. Chris Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy. Online at kurtzpolaris.com. Find us on Twitter at Gus Tutel, at 102.9 ESPN Radio.
Do you think this joke is ever going to die?
I mean, the joke it's you. So no.
Oh man.
I don't. I get it. Look, man, look at how many albums did Creed sell that record? I mean,
okay, this is the thing, though.
Like
you guys
20,
still
like
haven't
20 million.
You
right?
guys still haven't comprehended what my actual argument is. That song that we just played, Arms Wide Open, all the songs that are the cliche, horrendous, nauseating, horrible Creed songs.
Is that a bad Creed song?
Those are from their second album. My only argument is that their first album is good. It's not like groundbreakingly phenomenal. It's good. Do I like Creed? No. Do I agree with every single premise that you guys have for them? Absolutely. Do I think that song is trash? Absolutely. Do I think that the misperception of Creed by the masses, pinning them as a Christian band when they, in fact, entirely first album was about heroin use, I think is absolutely hilarious. I think it's a referendum on society. And I also think that then they sold out and tried to perpetuate their own narrative. And I think that is horrible. And I hate them for it. But it remains that I have and will listen to My Own Prison, the album, forever because it is good.
You know how much I admire you for this take? I can't tell you. 10 out of 10. Admire you. No one will go out on a limb like that to say that, and you have done it. All I'm saying is the list is Scott Stapp and Fred Durst.
Why are you listening? Is that why you Google Limp
Yeah,
Bizkit?
I couldn't remember his name.
I mean, okay, here's to put a bow on the take. To put a bow on that take. Yeah. Limp Bizkit's albums, whole album catalog, are all significantly better than Creed's second two albums. They are. I mean, Limp Bizkit's first album's good. It is good. Okay. And then they went rap rock and End Together Now with Method Man. Yeah, that's trash. But
it's not even about the band. It's about one guy, Fred. Got
to sit next to Britney Spears at the MTV Music Video Awards. At that moment in time, that was one of the great wins in the history of mankind.
No.
You're so delusional.
Believe me, if either of us has any recollection, I was in the sweet spot. I was in college at this time, okay? So I am well aware of all the things circulating in the world, okay, at this time.
Yeah, but you weren't watching TRL.
It's too... Oh, yes.
You were?
Oh, are you kidding me?
Punk rock Gus Tutel?
Bro. Don't pigeonhole me like that. Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Let's do this Montana State schedule.
All right.
And we'll come back to the quarterbacks because we're going to talk about the Denver Broncos here in about 8 minutes from now. But we were both interested to see what Danny Sprinkle would be able to come up with at Montana State, having now been hired, first-year head coach. This is one of the things that certainly is, privy to, knowledgeable about and all that, but this is one of the things that I think a lot of people don't consider that's a significant part of the job as a head coach of a men's basketball team that you've just never really done before. And not to say that he hasn't, been part and parcel. I'm sure the whole staff is, participatory at some level in some of this stuff, but the responsibility is on you to go put a schedule together and try and figure out how you're going to do it and what you're going to do. And it's a very interesting and I think a good schedule and a lot of like opponents for Montana State, whereas the University of Montana is playing up a whole bunch and down a whole bunch. They really have the Grizzlies, what you would call really like opponent in North Dakota.
Right.
This is well, it may be one of the tournaments too, the Cal State. But this is a lot of like opponents and very interesting and some pretty notable teams going to Bozeman in the non-conference, which is really hard to do in the state of Montana.
Yeah, I mean, Danny Sprinkle's team will be on the road. They open up at Utah State. They have a home game against Rocky Mountain College, and then they're on the road for a while. They're going to be at the UNC Greensboro tournament, which also features Appalachian State and Tennessee Tech, as well as UNC Greensboro. And then they're at Grand Canyon in Phoenix, which is an intriguing matchup because Grand Canyon has a ton of resources. Dan Marley is the head coach. Thunder Dan is the head coach.
Dan Marley.
But they also are. It's a weird school. It's a for-profit institution in a gigantic city.
Yeah, I guess it's now shifted into a nonprofit, but it's a nonprofit in the traditional sense, not nonprofit the way that a traditional university or institution is. Like it's run as a nonprofit, but it is not to say that it is, strictly speaking, academic institution.
Right. And so when you have probably pretty loose academic standards combined with the fact that you're in the WAC, which is not necessarily a prestigious academic league,
and a huge endowment.
A huge endowment, and you're in the 5th largest city in America.
Right.
In basketball, one player can change everything so rapidly. And so if you just go land, if you're Dan Marley, who played in the NBA for 10 plus years, you just go land the best guy in Phoenix or one of the best guys in Phoenix, you could get a Pac-12 level player who can then take Grand Canyon into the stratosphere. Who knows? Who knows at the talent level? That's a good game, though. But then the Cats finally return home for some then they play Colorado Christian. So it's going to be November 30th until they actually play a Division I school at home.
Mm-hmm.
That's a tough stretch. But Green Bay coming to Bozeman on November 30th, South Dakota State in Bozeman on December 5th. Then they finish out the non-conference at North Dakota State on December 16th and at Cal State Bakersfield on the 19th. To me, this is an interesting schedule because, like you say, there is some like opponents. There's also no money games. Talking to Brian Fish over the last 5 years, Brian Fish always played a couple money games. The last couple of years, him and Leon Costello had an agreement that when he played money games, he could use some of that money for charters and for his program. Not dissimilar to what Travis DeCuire has in his contract right now. But I also think that there was a couple moments that were, when Brian Fish first took that job, Brad Hughes had used such a junior college recruiting model. So Brian Fish tore it down, just recruited some high school kids. He sort of reverted to the junior college model in years 2 through 5. But that first year, they kind of just tore it down and they had just what they had. And they were not good. They were a 7-25 team. But they played a couple money games, including at Kentucky. And that was a game that was just it's. I think that it doesn't matter how much you get paid. If you go lose 85-30, it's just not good for the psyche of your program. Like, you can talk about the experience and stuff like that. All right, well, you got to go compete. You can't just get smashed. I mean, they have 7 points with 5 minutes to go in the first half. I mean, it's not good for your guys. So on that fact, you look at this Montana State schedule, they don't have a game where you look at it and you're like, man, they might just get smoked. Utah State was intriguing because I thought Sam Merrill was one of the better players in college basketball last year. He lit the Cats up. That was their opener last year as well. And coming into that year, Tyler Hall senior year, Harold Frey, next step, all this, and they go out and they give up 107 and lose by 30. That wasn't good for anybody's psyche either. No. But, there's no real game on the schedule where you're like, man, they're going to get absolutely ripped. I mean, South Dakota State's been a premier program, but they lose Mike Daum to the NBA. So I think that there's no game where you're like, man, how are we going to even get out of this with any confidence at all? It remains to be seen if they're any good. And, if they're not very good, that they could get taken to them by South Dakota State and North Dakota State. Who knows? But it's not like Indiana. It's not like playing at Assembly Hall. Yeah. It's not like playing at Rupp Arena. It's not like playing at some of these venues that Brian Fish took his team to. So it'll be interesting to see what sort of impact that has on a young team's psyche.
But specifically that 3-game stretch that they do play at home from the 26th of November through the 5th of December, Colorado Christian, I don't know. Fine, okay. But South Dakota State has been, one of the best mid-major or maybe low-major, depending on how you do the Summit League, schools in the country. And Wisconsin Green Bay, people don't know maybe about Wisconsin Green Bay, but this is a really good program, an outstanding basketball school. That's what they're about at Wisconsin Green Bay, and they've fielded a couple of tournament teams over in recent memory, and so that's a really good team to get to come to your venue, in Bozeman. So that's good, but it is tough. I mean, and not that many games, honestly. I mean, if you talk about Utah State, you got that one, the Rocky Mountain, the Colorado Christian game, but 3 games in that tournament, the 4th one at Grand Canyon on the road, and then 2 at home, and then North Dakota State and Cal State Bakersfield, which again are really good games to get, but both road games, and then that's it for the non-conference, and you're off and running, starting at home with Sacramento State on December 28th. So there you go. The schedule now in place for Montana State heading into the 2019-2020 basketball season.
So it's really interesting to compare and contrast, considering Montana's playing this powerhouse schedule that includes 3 Pac-12s, but I think it's very indicative of the state of the programs.
Mm-hmm. Quick break. Hour 1 in the books. Hour 2 straight ahead. We take a little bit of a dive into the Denver Broncos next.
Garden City Paint and Glass in Missoula is like your paint doctor. They take the pain out of painting. Don't trust your home to anything less than professional PPG paints from Garden City Paint and Glass. Go to visualizecolors.com. Scan in your room photo to see what color combinations will look best before painting. That's visualizecolors.com. Featuring professional PPG paints. Garden City Paint and Glass in Missoula, across from the Southside McDonald's at 3217 Brooks.
Canyon River Golf Club is a must for any golfer in western Montana. Tucked away in a spectacular setting along the Clark Fork River in East Missoula, Canyon River offers one of Montana's best championship golf experiences. And Canyon River is happy to announce their new fleet of golf carts, which include the Shark Experience, an interactive GPS giving dynamic distances and touchscreen interaction to help you play your best. Plus, with Bluetooth, radio, and surround sound, you can enjoy yourself between holes too. Book online at CanyonRiverGolfClub.com. Missoula's best golf, Canyon River.
No matter how far you may go, there's always one just down the road. Town Pump, ooh, pump it up, pump it up.
Tacos are good any night of the week, and Town Pump will help you pair them with the perfect cold drink. Get Modelo 12-pack cans for $11.99. Kick back and enjoy the cool night air with Liberty Creek 1.5-liter wine, just $7.99 at Town Pump.
Town Pump, right down the road, pump it up, oh yeah.
You've chosen the caterer, addressed the invitations, and picked out a cake. But have you decided where to bank? Farmers State Bank offers just what you need as you start your new life together. Checking and savings accounts, electronic banking options, the latest tech, even locally approved mortgages. And with 9 Western Montana locations, there's a Farmers State Bank where you live, work, and play. Congratulations from all of us at Farmers State Bank, an equal housing lender and member FDIC.
Hey folks, Ryan Tutel, and I'm here with Josh of the Advocates. Josh, do most injury accidents end up in court?
Luckily, most personal injury cases can be settled out of court through a fair negotiation with an insurance company. However, sometimes it is necessary. I'm prepared to do whatever it takes to get a fair settlement. Luckily, most personal injury cases can be settled out of court with a fair negotiation with the insurance company. However, I'm prepared to do whatever it takes to get the right settlement for you.
It's Josh at the Advocates, 640-4444, or online at MontanaAdvocates.com.
Welcome to today's lottery drawing. And today's winning numbers are not yours, not yours, and another number that's not yours. And the final number is not yours.
When it comes to having money, don't rely on luck. Brew your own coffee at home instead of buying that latte. Brown bag it to work instead of ordering it. Go to feedthepig.org for more free ideas on how to save. Feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Ad Council.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana. KKVU HD3 Stevensville and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula. ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon. Ryan Tutel, Colton Nuanez. Here's some sports news. The Montana men's basketball team landed its latest Pac-12 transfer Tuesday with the commitment of Nassim Gaskin, a 6'3", 175-pound guard from Oakland. The former 3-star recruit was ranked as high as number 37 in the state of California, coming out of Bishop O'Dowd High School. As a junior, he led his team to the CIF state championship playoffs by shooting 55% from the floor. As a senior, Gaskin was an all-state honorable mention selection after averaging 14.5 points, 6.7 rebounds, and 1.7 assists per game.
Gaskin redshirted last season at Utah under former Grizz head coach and star player Larry Kostoviak. After choosing the Utes over offers from Montana, Wyoming, Santa Clara, and St. Mary's, Gaskin committed to the Grizz. head coach Travis DeCura has landed transfers like Ahmad Rory, Donovan Dorsey, and Kendall Manuel, previously from the Pac-12.
Montana State released its men's basketball schedule for the first season under Danny Sprinkle. The slate includes an opener at Utah State, trips to Greensboro, North Carolina to play in the North Carolina-Greensboro Holiday Tournament, and a game at Grand Canyon State. The Bobcats play 3 straight home games for wrap-up November, hosting Colorado Christian, Green Bay, Wisconsin, and South Dakota State. MSU finishes the non-conference at North Dakota State and at Cal State Bakersfield before opening Big Sky Conference play at home against Sacramento State.
This ESPN Missoula Sports Center is brought to you by Aspen Sound.
Heading into twilight, spreading out her wings tonight. She got you jumping off the deck, shoving into overdrive.
Weren't they supposed to come out with a Top Gun?
It's coming again.
What happened?
I saw it all over social media a little while ago that it's coming. It's in the works.
You know, Tom Sterrett visited the Seattle Space Needle while I was working there. Came up there, shook some hands, signed some autographs. I took a picture for a fan of him and the fan.
Do you know who sings this song?
Is it Creed?
Oh my gosh, you're amazing. You know what trivia?
No, I don't.
You know what trivia I'm better at than sports trivia?
The music trivia?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah. I could name that tune. So I mean, try me.
Okay, well, name this tune.
Danger Zone by Kenny Loggins.
Tutel Nuanez by Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy. Online at kurtzpolaris.com. You can find us on the World Wide Web, 1029ESPN.com. There you can listen to the stream anytime that you want and listen live tab. It is there thanks to Opportunity Bank, your local bank, your opportunity. If you'd like to call, 329-1899 is the phone number, 329-1899. All guests join us via the Rankage Brothers RV phone line. And if you missed anything in that first hour, we got you covered on the podcast. The podcast available all the time, no matter where, when. It's out there on your favorite podcasting platforms or on the station website. Podcast available thanks to the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel. It seems like it was like a year ago that this whole thing was going and it had all this momentum and they were shooting scenes for it, and then all of a sudden, like, it just went. Did something happen? Did they lose funding? Did it get lost?
I don't know. I mean, it seems impossible that you could lose funding for what is going to be like almost no doubt I mean, it's like a guaranteed top 10 box office movie of all time, right? You remake Top Gun.
I mean, it's got to be done well. Here's my thing. Top Gun, the original, is one of the great movies. One of the greats of all time.
It's been postponed to June of 2020.
Okay,
but it is in the works.
The thing is, though, is that while on one hand that paves the way for having a huge box office success on the second time around, it also is a very high standard to attain to. I mean, the shots of the jets flying around in these maneuvers in, what was it, 1984 that it came out or something like this, is. I mean, it was a cinematic marvel at the time, and it's still riveting to this day to watch Top Gun and watch those planes flying around. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's amazing. And so, you know, to try and do better than that, which you're gonna have to at this point, 35 years down the line, is no easy task. Maybe that's why they're postponing it. Maybe the crane is broken. Colter, let's talk about the Denver Broncos for a moment. The Denver Broncos, a team that plays in the National Football League. They are in the AFC West, and they have been the most dominant franchise in the AFC that is not the New England Patriots, the Denver Broncos. I mean, when you go back to the 99-2000, or 98-99, was it? 98-99 back-to-back Super Bowl championships with John Elway. This is a team that I think has been to the AFC Championship game 7 times. Mm-hmm. And in the Super Bowl several times, obviously lost one with Peyton Manning, won one with Peyton Manning, and has just been the picture of stability and success. And I think kind of gets underrated nationally, underappreciated for how good they have been as a franchise. But they have struggled the last couple of years. Their misses after Peyton Manning at quarterback by John Elway pretty well documented, and it feels like you're getting to a point with John Elway where, you know, he's going to have the longest of leashes in that community. And by the way, as the president, has gone to 2 Super Bowls, which only serves to, you know, further solidify and cement his place in. I mean, it's just not in question about what he is to Denver and to the Broncos. But he has started to gain some criticism, both nationally and perhaps in the market as well, about some of these reaches and misses and Case Keesum and that whole kind of fiasco, and then the Paxton Lynch deal that hasn't worked, and now they're kind of, running it back, but with different names in there by getting the veteran and Joe Flacco to come in and then drafting Drew Lock in the second round out of Missouri. And, I don't know what they expect Drew Lock to be. If you're sitting there going, no, this is going to be the next franchise guy. I don't know if they're expecting him to compete to be the starter right now and have Joe Flacco sit behind him or what exactly. I do know that while it's professional football and it is in that respect, a business and everybody's job is on the line every day and all that kind of stuff, there are ways to handle it and ways not to handle it. And when you bring Joe Flacco in and say, hey, we want you to come in, we want you to be our guy. He has this incredible run in Baltimore and a Super Bowl and all that kind of stuff. And then, without consulting him or whatever, or even telling you draft Drew Lock, and that leaves a very bitter taste in a guy's mouth who you brought in that you want to be happy and want to play football for you. So I don't know how that's all going to go. Offensively, just question marks across the board. I think a very middle-of-the-pack offensive line in Denver. Major questions at quarterback. What is Joe Flacco at this point in time? I think a lot of people have the arrow pointing pretty significantly down on Joe Flacco, and a huge question mark, of course, with Drew Lock. At running back with Philip Lindsay, I think you have an X factor there. He was a guy who obviously was outstanding, especially relative to expectations. I mean, there were none. No one knew who this kid was, undrafted out of Colorado, but obviously a hometown hero and a great story for Denver and a great player, but can he redo that again? I think another significant X factor for this team is Jake Butt. Everybody's forgetting that they've got Jake Butt over there, who was he the first round or second round pick?
But he was like one of the first picks of the second round.
And a huge draft pick out of Michigan, expected to be, the next great pass-catching tight end. Of course, tears his ACL in camp last year, doesn't play a snap, but he is there and, presumably ready to go. And you pair him with Emmanuel Sanders and Courtland Sutton, which is a better than average wide receiver combo. You got some weapons a little bit in the passing game, but I think that the offense is below average in Denver. Let's just put it. I mean, that's just a fact. Like it is not up to par with the rest of the league, and particularly inside of that division when you got probably the best offense in football in Kansas City and a potentially top 5 offense, depending on what happens with Melvin Gordon, in the Los Angeles Chargers. So that is trouble. Where Denver is going to and wants to make its hay is defensively. They get Vic Fangio in to come in, be the head coach, let him do his, while everybody else is going for the young offensive guru, they bring in the old defensive statesman who's never gotten a shot and say, let's go this way. And I like that pick by John Elway to go with Vic Fangio. And why not when you got, Bradley Chubb 5th overall, when you got Von Miller sitting there, Derek Wolfe is back. I mean, that's a bad defense still.
Oh, yeah.
And
Green Jackson's a great addition.
And Chris Harris, right, as a cornerback.
Yep.
So I think there's a lot to like defensively, and I love the pairing with Vic Fangio. I just don't know if this team can score enough points. And the fact of the matter is, this team as a whole is not as talented. I mean, it's just not close to as talented as the Chargers or the Chiefs, who both have formidable defenses.
Totally. I mean, it's just going to all come down to how do their recent draft picks hit? Can Philip Lindsay do it again? I mean, I was watching the NFL Top 100 the other day. Philip Lindsay was on it. He was the first undrafted rookie free agent in the history of the NFL to make the NFL Top 100 list. That's impressive.
That is impressive.
Can he do it again, though? I mean, does he have a 1,000-yard season in him again?
It is very much. I mean, I think Philip Lindsay is great. He's really, the speed is real with Philip Lindsay.
Yeah, for sure.
I just have a hard time believing in him. I really do. And part of it is the offensive line, and part of it is just the, you kind of burst onto the scene, and now people, when they're game planning for you, because really, especially with the questions at quarterback, who are you going to start with? You're probably going to start with Philip Lindsay defensively, right? Well, that's huge. When you were the other guy that people are like, oh, wow, he is faster than normal, we're going to have to pay attention to him, as opposed to being the focal point of a game plan, that changes things significantly.
And then you look at all the rest of their skill guys. Every single one of their skill guys, first of all, I think has more talent than what Joe Flacco was working with the last 2 years in Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
Are they good, though, is the question. I mean, talent, you have to become a good player even if you have talent. Everybody in the league, in the NFL has talent.
Yep.
But they have guys that are very talented. Deshaun Hamilton out of Penn State was great. I thought he was awesome in college. I loved him when he was playing for the Nittany Lions. Cortland Sutton was a guy that I think was under the radar while in college at SMU, but then really showed out at the combine, and he's got a lot of speed, a lot of size.
And he was a maybe second-round pick, right? I mean,
he was. I think he was actually a first.
Maybe first round, yeah.
Yeah, second round. He was drafted 40th overall.
Okay.
But then Jake Butt is probably a top 15 pick if he doesn't get hurt, and he still ends up going in the second round.
Right.
And then they got the biggest freak in the draft last year in Noah Fant from Iowa.
Right.
The kid runs 4.5 flat. He's got 40-inch vertical, and he's a tight end.
I mean, the double tight end that they could have with those two guys is just.
So I mean, I agree. It seems as if they. I think that saying that they don't have as much talent is actually not true. They do have a ton of talent. They don't have any proven talent.
Yeah,
that's the deal. They have a proven talent in Joe Flacco, but he might be on the bad side of his career. I mean, he might be on the downside. We'll see. But all the rest of those guys, can Philip Lindsay do it again? And can Deshaun Hamilton, Cortland Sutton, Jake Butt, and Noah Fant do it at all? Is the question. There's a lot to say that they can, but they have to do it.
Okay, we did this yesterday with the Seattle Seahawks, Tutel Nuanez, ESPN Radio. We went through the schedule, just rapid-fire wins and losses. So I'm going to do this with you again, Coulter, for the Denver Broncos. I think we ended up with Seattle at 9-7. When I say we, of course, I mean you. I like Seattle to be a 10-win team this year. But in any case, the Denver Broncos, here we go, opening up Monday night, September 9th, at Oakland.
Loss.
Oh, sorry, I got to get my deal going. You got them losing to the Oakland Raiders.
I think the Raiders will ride the momentum of the Hard Knocks.
Okay. The Hard Knocks is not momentum. It's only
the Raiders are better than the Broncos. Don't you think?
No,
they got better quarterback, they got better playmakers, they got better offensive line.
I don't.
They're not as good on D.
I don't think they have better playmakers.
Really?
They're playmakers.
Antonio Brown? The best playmaker in the league?
Frostbitten feet, can't find a helmet.
Okay, but
no, I'm down.
Antonio Brown is a crazy person, and he's getting all these headlines. But Antonio Brown is getting talked about because Antonio Brown's so good. Antonio Brown is going to go. I mean, he's still one of the best players in the league.
Antonio Brown is without question the best skill position guy, non-quarterback, on either of these two teams.
Yes.
Okay, I grant you that. And there is no one else. Josh Jacobs, I really like as a rookie for Oakland. But there is no one else. There's a lot more weapons in Denver than there are in Oakland. And their defense. But so you got.
I would say that the Raiders' defense is very similar to the analysis I just gave for the Broncos' offense. They have a ton of talent. Who remains to be seen if they can actually.
Well,
I mean, Cleveland Farrell is an epically talented player out of Clemson. I mean, Maurice Hurst from Michigan he was the number one D tackle recruit in the country once upon a time. He's got a heart murmur, so he fell in the draft. PJ Hall, Arden Key. They have a bunch of character issue guys. Can they get them to play together? Who knows? But I do think they have a lot of talent on defense. Oakland does.
I think that if Denver loses in Oakland week 1, which I don't think they will, I picked Denver to win that game.
You're doing a whole 30? Great.
But no, I think Denver's going to have a long season. I think it's a bad way to start because here's what happens after that. So you got them as a loss week 1. Versus the Bears.
Loss.
At Green Bay.
Loss.
0-3. Versus Jacksonville.
I think they win that one at Mile High.
At the Los Angeles Chargers.
Loss.
Versus Tennessee.
Win.
Versus Kansas City.
Loss.
At Indy.
Loss.
Versus Cleveland.
Loss.
At Minnesota.
Loss.
At Buffalo.
It's a tough game. Loss.
Versus the Los Angeles Chargers.
Loss.
At Houston.
Loss.
At Kansas City.
Loss.
Versus Detroit.
Win.
Versus Oakland.
Win.
4-12.
I mean, I would say they're between a 4 and 6 win team.
Well, I think they're a 6-win team. It will be. Here's the thing: they will not be favored to beat the Colts, but I think that's a winnable game for them. I think they will beat Oakland in the first week of the season. I think they'll beat Buffalo on the road. And I think that there's going to be another team in here who we think is an obvious loss to them that they'll just jump up and get. Now, there's a couple of games in there that we have them winning that maybe they don't win.
Right.
So the knife cuts both ways. But I think they're better than a 4-win team. I really like their defense, and I like the head coach, and I like going in that direction. I like not following the trend because I still think it's defense that makes it happen.
And they still have a real deal home field advantage.
Yes, they do.
Still have one of the 5 best home field advantages in the league.
And it's twofold, right? It's the crowd and it's just the reality of the elevation of it. So,
it's hard to win in Denver though. That is a truth.
So, like you have Cleveland beating Denver. I think Cleveland would be favored in that football game. I love the Browns, but could Cleveland lose in Denver? Certainly. So, we'll see. 4 wins. It's a little low, I think.
How many games did they win last year? 4?
That's a good question.
I think they were 4 or 5 win team.
Let's see if I can tell you this in just one click of the button here. Let me just take a quick look. Oh, this of course is going to take me to this year's preseason, which I could just not care less about. You know what I mean? Filing through all this stuff. They were a 6-10 football team last year. The Oakland Raiders were 4-12. I think they're going to be better than that. I think they're going to be better than a 4-win team. I do not think they're a playoff team. I think they are definitely hamstrung by the fact that it feels like they're going to go 0-4 against the Chiefs and the Chargers. And if you do that, you're not going to make up that kind of ground everywhere else. It's Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. It's time for another Wing It Wednesday. So let's get the phones open. 329-1899. 329-1899 is the phone number. We got a Wing It Wednesday coming up right now. Coulter's got some questions for you about all-time NBA stats. We're talking about all the good things, the scoring, the assists. So if you feel like you know that, you can get yourself some wings to the Desperado. 329-1899. Call right now. Coulter, sometimes you know what I've thought about is maybe one day I just want to stay in a hotel. You know what I mean? I live in Missoula, but maybe I want to stay in a different house than my own house one night. Or maybe I got people coming in, or let's be honest, maybe you're just a business traveler. Not just. Maybe you're a great business traveler. And you want someplace fair to stay. Wingate by Wyndham, they're going to take care of you.
Something for everybody at the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel. And say you're a dad that needs a birthday party. Say you need to take your kids to cool off in the summer heat. You can take them to the Wingate by Wyndham. They got water slides. Great place for a birthday party for kids. Great place just to take the kids to go on the water slide.
And a full breakfast in the morning that you won't have to clean.
There you go.
Up. Yeah, it's great.
Wingate by Wyndham Hotel that has something for everybody, whether it's the Awesome Water Park or the Sweetwater Slide. For families, groups, and birthday parties, the Wingate by Wyndham also has terrific business travel rates, large meeting spaces for you and your clients, and one of the best rewards programs you'll find anywhere. Go check them out. Wingate by Wyndham, 541-8000. The Wingate by Wyndham in Missoula, make you feel at home even when you're not.
Most of my family, they never graduated high school, so I'm trying to break that barrier. My daughter, Brooklyn, was also a motivation for me to go back to school. Every day after work, went straight to school, and it paid off.
At age 26, Kareem finished his high school diploma.
I could not have done it alone. I see the future is really bright for me.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
Alpine Touch makes the perfect gift this summer or any time of year. If you are traveling, bring a gift that is distinctly Montana and give your loved ones some of the best spices anywhere around. From the Alpine Touch Pick 4 Spice Pack to the All-Purpose Twin Pack to the mouth-watering sunflower shoots to Alpine Touch gift cards. Alpine Touch makes the perfect Montana present. Available at retail locations around the state or online for a limited time. Use the code ESPN10 at checkout to get 10% off any online order. Alpine Touch, Montana's special spice.
Les Schwab is proud to introduce two of our best tires ever, just in time for summer. There's our exclusive Reputation, a high-mileage premium passenger tire we believe has the quietest, most comfortable ride ever. Or our exceptionally quiet and smooth all-season traction tire, the Open Range AT. Get up to $150 instant rebate on 4 backcountry MT or AT tires, or $50 on 4 road control passenger tires. Les Schwab Tires. Doing the right thing matters. Cannot be combined with other offers. Limited time. Terms and conditions apply. Details at leschwab.com.
On Russell, across from the fairgrounds.
At the Montana Club, our goal is to create a menu of mouth-watering food with variety to satisfy any craving. From the garden-fresh ingredients in our salads to our succulent, perfectly grilled Montana Club Angus steaks, we take pride in every detail that goes into preparing your food. Top off your meal with a premium cocktail, wine, or microbrew. Come as you are and satisfy your craving with our home-style breakfast, lunch, and dinner at the Montana Club on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
In Western Montana, we know shopping local matters, and you may think you'd pay more for the quality and customer service that comes with it, but not at Selway Armory. Selway Armory is locally owned with knowledgeable specialists that can answer your questions. In addition to the expertise, though, Selway Armory also has a bigger selection and lower prices than the box stores. When you're in the market for firearms and accessories, save money with the experts at Selway Armory. Selway Armory, 2825 Stockyard Road, Unit E6, and online at selwayarmory.com.
Have you been hurt or disabled? Are you missing time from work and not sure what to do? I'm attorney Chris Helmer, and Clark Fork Law Offices in Missoula is here to help. Our team specializes in worker compensation, personal injury, and Social Security disability. We fight for the benefits you deserve. Call Clark Fork Law at 728-0168 for a free consultation, or visit clarkforklaw.com. Again, 728-0168.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon, Ryan Tutel, Colton Nuanez. Here's some sports news for you. The Montana men's basketball team landed its latest Pac-12 transfer on Tuesday with the commitment of Nassim Gaskin, a 6'3", 175-pound guard from Oakland. The former 3-star recruit was ranked as high as number 37 in the state of California, coming out of Bishop O'Dowd High School. As a junior, he led his team to the CIF State Championship playoffs by shooting 55% of the floor. He committed and went to Utah, where he redshirted and now transferring to Missoula.
He originally chose the Utes over offers from Montana, Wyoming, Santa Clara, and St. Mary's. He's got 3 years of eligibility remaining. He will have to sit out this upcoming year. UM head coach Travis DeCuire has landed transfers like Ahmad Roy, Donovan Dorsey, and Kendall Manuel from the Pac-12 ranks in recent years.
Montana State released its men's basketball schedule for its first season under Danny Sprinkle. The slate includes an opener at Utah State, a trip to Greensboro, North Carolina to play in the North Carolina-Greensboro Holiday Tournament, and a game at Grand Canyon State. The Bobcats play 3 straight home games to wrap up November, hosting Colorado Christian, Green Bay, and South Dakota State. MSU finishes the non-conference at North Dakota State and Cal State Bakersfield before opening Big Sky Conference play December 28th against Sac State.
And finally, Missoula Osprey lost in extra innings again, 3-2-10 to the Ogden Raptors. This time, 3rd extra inning loss this week.
This ESPN Missoula Sports Center is brought to you by Aspen Sound.
Not allowed to have more than one famous song if, as a band name, you chose Chumbawamba.
The 90s is just amazing.
Hit, though. This was a hit, baby.
It's so crazy, the evolution of music. Like in the 70s and the 80s. In the 70s, it was all about the records and the radio. And in the 80s, it was all about the music videos. And in the 90s, there were so many bands that were so good that came out and dropped a diamond album that sold 10 million copies in a month. And then they became so popular, they became parodies of themselves and then received so much vitriol. Like Hootie and the Blowfish is not bad, but people hate them because of the irony of the caricature they became of themselves only through fame.
I don't know, man. I think that I don't know that the blowback on Hootie has been as bad. Certainly not as bad as for some others.
I mean, think about all the bands you can think of that, like, first album, pretty good. I mean, I know you're not a Rob Thomas guy, but Matchbox 20, first album, far superior to their other releases. Their other stuff sucks. Third Eye Blind, great. And then they were kind of just anonymous. And Hootie and the Blowfish, I mean, they had their gigantic album, and then their next two were almost glossed over, even though they were better musically.
Hootie and the Blowfish, that record was one of the all-time sellers.
Absolutely. But what I'm saying is their next two records were actually as good, if not better. They just were, it's like once you hit the fever pitch, we just flushed you down the toilet.
It's Tutel Nuanez, ESPN Radio, broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway and Missoula Highway 83, and Sealy online at kurtzpolaris.com. Coulter, it's time for a Wing It Wednesday. Let's go to the phones. We welcome in Brandon to the show. Brandon, how you doing?
Doing well, fellas. How you guys doing?
Doing excellent, Brandon. Thank you very much. Now, here's the deal. We're going to play a little game, see if we can't get you wings over to the Desperado Sports Tavern. Have you had the wings over there?
I have. They're amazing.
They are amazing. They are amazing indeed. You got to go into the Desperado, eat those wings. You know, we give the wings away every week. You don't have to wait for us, for crying out loud, people. You can go over there right now and just, get some. All right, here's the deal, Brandon. 3 questions for you. You get 2 of them right. You got yourself that coveted basket of wings. You get all 3, you get a shirt. If you need help, I am your lifeline, all right?
All right, sounds good.
Boy, some chicken wings would really hit the spot. Tummy likey. Tummy want wingy.
All right, Coulter, here we go. Set up your boy, Brandon. What are we doing here?
All right, Brandon, we got NBA historical questions. So I'm just going to ask you about some of the great statistical achievements in careers in NBA history. So we'll start with assists. There have been 5 players in NBA history that have registered 10,000 or more career assists. Give me 2.
John Stockton, Steve Nash, Jason Kidd.
John Stockton, Jason Kidd. Mark Jackson, you got it. Steve Nash is not quite into that. But those 3, I'm not going to tell you the other 2 because I'm going to have Ryan revisit this and see if I can get either one of us can guess all of these. Okay. But you did get 3 there though, with Mark Jackson, Jason Kidd, and John Stockton. John Stockton out in front of everybody by so much it's crazy. I mean, John Stockton.
What is he at?
He had 15,000 assists.
Unbelievable.
He had 5,000 more assists than Magic Johnson. Think of that.
That's a significant number.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Number 2, 10 players in NBA history have scored at least 27,000 points. Give me 3.
So you got Kareem, Karl Malone, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, LeBron James.
That had to hit at least 3. Not 5.
Absolutely. I mean, I think he actually just. I think he said them.
The top 5.
Yeah, I think he just did them almost actually in order. I think actually, did Karl Malone surpass Kareem Abdul-Jabbar? I can't remember.
No, Kareem's number 1.
Kareem's number 1. Yeah. Actually, I think you just named the top 5 in order, except for it was 5 of the top 6. You did miss 1. But you got the question right. You got the question right. You got the question right. But number 3 is Kobe Bryant. That was the only one you're missing.
Kid in class that everybody hates because you're doing extra credit for fun, not because you need it. You already got an A in the class, and you're still going out there. You're getting like 110% in the class, and everybody's like, "Hey, get this Brandon kid out of here with all these brains." Hey, man, excellent work. You got yourself a basket of wings to the Desperado. Very well done there. Question number 3. Let's see if we can get a shirt in this thing.
All right, number 3. There's been only 6 players in NBA history with at least 15,000 career rebounds. Give me 2 of those.
Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Russell, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. That's at least 3.
That's it. Those are the 3. You got it.
Thanks for letting me help you, Brandon. Appreciate it.
No lifelines today for Wing It Wednesday. No lifelines, period. Ryan and I are irrelevant.
Let me give you one piece of advice since you didn't use me for a lifeline. Hot teriyaki. That's the one you want with ranch. I'm telling you. That's the ticket over there at the Desperado. Brandon, excellent work. Give your information to Reese, and we'll get you set up with all that stuff. All right, man?
Awesome. Thanks, fellas. Love listening to you.
Appreciate it. There you go. Brandon, just that easy. That's sweet.
Okay, so actually the top 5 assists, he did it all in order. He got 1 through 4 with John Stockton. Jason Kidd is 2nd. Steve Nash is 3rd. Mark Jackson.
Nash is there.
There he is 3rd. I misspoke. Nash is 3rd. Mark Jackson 4th. Magic Johnson 5th.
Okay.
But go. I want you to go look up the all-time leading scoring leaders, and I want you to look up the all-time leading rebounders because I want to see if I can get this. I just picked a number as far as like how many they had.
So
and
what you wanted to do was ask yourself these questions.
Well, I just want to know if I can get them. I just want to know if I actually can get them. I know he named the rebounders 1 through 3. Kareem, it goes Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Russell, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in order. But then the other guys that have 15,000 rebounds, I'll wait till you get it up there.
Okay, but I got the scores.
Okay, you got scores. Okay, so he said Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He said Wilt Chamberlain. He said Karl Malone. He said Michael Jordan. He said LeBron James.
Yes.
And those are the one that he was missing out of there was Kobe Bryant.
Yep.
I think so. Then the other. So that's how many? That's 6.
That's 5 of the top 6.
That's 5 of the top 6.
Don't look too, because I got one with pictures on it.
I think that Elvin Hayes is in the top 10. I think
he is number 10.
He's 10. Okay. I think that Dirk Nowitzki is in the top 10.
5, Dirk.
Wow. Okay. So
He's
that's
the one that was missing.
So that's 7. 6. So that's okay. So we got the top 6 knocked out, and then we have 10. So I'm looking for 7, 8, and 9. Okay. Dominique Wilkins.
Actually, did he say Wilt?
No, but I did.
Okay.
So that's
7.
Okay. So we got 7
for 8 and 9.
8 and 9. Okay.
No, not Dominique Wilkins.
Not Dominique Wilkins. Moses Malone.
Number 9.
Okay. So I'm missing number 8.
Yep.
This is tough.
You've never heard of him.
I don't know about that. Bob Pettit.
I was lying about the never heard.
Okay. Oh, I just went with a throwback guy because Bob Pettit has all these records, but like, who knows Bob Pettit? I mean, he's played for the St. Louis Hawks in like the 50s. Let's see. It's not David Robinson. It's not Clyde Drexler. Elgin Baylor.
Nope.
Jerry West.
Nope.
Tell me.
Shaquille O'Neal.
Oh, Shaquille O'Neal. Yeah. Gosh.
Number 8.
Okay.
So now I got your rebounds leaders.
Okay, so he went 1 through 3. He had Bill Russell, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and then has to be Elvin Hayes has to be in there as well. Yeah. So Elvin Hayes is in the top 10 in rebounding and scoring. That's amazing.
Yep.
He is not remembered with as much reverence as he should.
Mm-hmm.
You got to have Tim Duncan on there.
6.
Okay. You got to have Karl Malone.
No.
Okay.
Wrong Malone.
Moses Malone. Okay.
Carl is 7.
Yep.
Moses is 5.
Yep.
I would have thought that the Worm might have been in there, but he's not. He's nowhere on this list. I always thought Rodman was such a great rebounder.
Well, he was a great rebounder. He just didn't have. He played a pretty long time, but he didn't.
23rd on the list.
Yeah, I mean, he played a pretty long time, but he didn't play for 30 years like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and he wasn't getting 50 a game like Wilt and Bill Russell.
8 all time.
Who's that?
Robert Parrish.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The Chief.
I mean, of course, everybody knows who Robert Parrish is, but I mean, I don't think that if you're sitting there listing off the great rebounders, I mean, I know he's a center and all that, but like he's kind of just a center,
right?
You know,
he had great longevity.
Kevin McHale,
yeah.
And
well, that's the thing is Robert Parrish had an epic career that had almost no team success attached to it for a full decade before he ever joined the Celtics. He was with the Warriors forever, and he was really good, but he was just largely anonymous because they just were good early in the 70s, but not really.
Just Kevin loving it over there.
The 70s in the NBA is it's the most interesting era of American pro sports of the modern. Say the modern era is the last 60 years. Call it from the first Super Bowl in 1963 on. The 70s in the NBA, it's just such a forgotten time because you had the NBA, the Celtics dynasty had just ended, even though they did go on and win a couple championships in the 70s too with John Havlicek. But you have the merger in 76 with the ABA. You also have just so much rampant drug use. And I think that you had a lack of mainstream acceptance because, quite frankly, America just thought of it as the black league and no one wanted to accept it. But then Larry Bird and Magic Johnson truly did just change the entire face of it. And the NBA as we know it started with those guys joining the league. But it's just crazy that the common NBA fan, they remember, they could be able to tell you, the Celtics dominated the 60s, Bill Russell. And they'll be able to tell you Lakers, Celtics all through the 80s. Chicago Bulls in the 90s. Every era has its defining thing except the 70s. The 70s is just like the the forgotten era.
Well, it's not forgotten to me. Goggles, knee socks, headbands.
But it's crazy that even guys like Robert Parrish or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, when he was Lou Alcindor, I mean, no one remembers Lou Alcindor. They only remember Kareem Abdul-Jabbar with the Lakers, or they remember Lou Alcindor at UCLA. They do not remember the time when they won a championship in Milwaukee, the time when he was a multiple-time MVP.
Put him on the right track, Coulter. You know what I mean? It's Tutel and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Quick break. We'll come back. We'll wrap up the show. We'll get into a couple of quick recruiting notes for Montana and Montana State, and also Coulter and I are good at so many things, but there's one thing that we are both truly bad at, and gracious mercy did it come to the fore last night.
The Big Sky Breakdown at SkylineSportsMT.com continues to give you the inside look from around the Big Sky Conference and the state of Montana. The most in-depth podcast in the Treasure State gives you multiple episodes each week year-round with commentary, analysis, interviews, and entertainment from around one of the most storied conferences in the West.
Whether it's full uncut interviews with Montana State head football coach Jeff Choate or Travis DeCure's thoughts on his outstanding Montana men's basketball team, everything you need to hear is available on the Big Sky Breakdown. Take a look inside the best stories in the conference and the most detailed analysis in the state. The Big Sky Breakdown, it has you covered.
Whether it's X's and O's acumen of Brooks Nuanez or the comedic banter of Ryan Tutel or the dry humor of Andrew Houghton.
And don't forget the best connections to everybody that matters in the sports world across the Big Sky Conference from Coulter Nuanez. And by the way, thank you for calling me funny.
You're welcome. The Big Sky Breakdown will present you with all of it and more at SkylineSportsMT.com.
The Big Sky Breakdown, proudly presented by Town Pump Food Stores and Selway Armory. Hey folks, Ryan Tutel here, and I'm with Josh from the Advocates Injury Attorneys. Josh, if our listeners have been injured in an accident, how can you help?
We're here to help you after a car accident by negotiating with insurance companies, recovering lost wages if you have any, and even getting you into a rental car if you need one. Call us today for a free consultation, and we'll get started helping you right away.
If you need help, get a hold of the Advocates. Call Josh at 640-4444 or online at montanaadvocates.com. You deserve an advocate.
Alpine Touch has been providing you with the distinct seasonings you know and love for decades. Now, Alpine Touch has something to help you unleash the freshness of all the delicious flavors you need to spice up any meal. Check out Alpine Touch's new coarse grinds, unleashing the fresh taste of the garlic pepper or all-purpose seasonings to please any nose or taste bud. Coarse grinds can be purchased by the pound at retail locations around the state or at alpinetouch.com. Use the code ESPN10 at checkout to get 10% off any online order. Alpine Touch, Montana's special spice.
Canyon River Golf Club is a must for any golfer in western Montana. Tucked away in a spectacular setting along the Clark Fork River in East Missoula, Canyon River offers one of Montana's best championship golf experiences. And Canyon River is happy to announce their new fleet of golf carts, which include the Shark Experience, an interactive GPS giving dynamic distances and touchscreen interaction to help you play your best. Plus, with Bluetooth, radio, and surround sound, you can enjoy yourself between holes too. Book online at canyonrivergolfclub.com. Missoula's best golf, Canyon River.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
Tutel and Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Missoula.
Whoa, Black Betty, bam lamb. Whoa, Black Betty, bam lamb. Black Betty had a child, bam lamb. The damn thing gone wild. Bam lamb, she said a word not of mine. Bam lamb, the damn thing gone blind. Bam lamb, I said, oh, Black Betty, bam lamb. Whoa, Black Betty.
What are we bad at? Lots of stuff. There's one thing that we're both bad at, though, together, and it makes for a miserable experience. Tutel and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. We're broadcasting live from Kurtz Polaris Studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, online at kurtzpolaris.com. Miss anything in the show, check it out on the podcast. Podcast available on the TuneIn Radio app and on iTunes and on Spotify. And you go there, you listen to it, you rate it, you review it, you subscribe. We appreciate all that. Give it the stars. And listen to it thanks to the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel. Coulter, not to but we're great at a lot of things.
I was actually just thinking over the break what I'm actually good at, and I'm actually not that good at a lot of things.
Well, let's put it like this.
I'm great at eating, drinking, preparing the things that I eat and drink, and talking. That's all.
Writing. Memory.
Well, thank you.
Numeric memory.
Sports stats memory.
Yeah.
Not wallet, keys, or cell phone.
No.
Not remote broadcasting equipment. Nope, none of that.
Critical thought. Here's the thing.
Thanks. That was very nice of you.
Well, it's the truth. There's a lot of things in the world, okay? You got to spend some time to be good at any of them. And so almost everybody is bad at almost everything. But if we're talking about just sort of gifts, okay, there's not that many of them. You can have a handful of them or not have a handful of other ones. And, I don't know where you're at in terms of how good you are as a construction person. Like a builder of things.
Bad.
But
Bottom.
my guess is 0 out of 10.
No, 0.
And you and I.
I'm great at construction cleanup. Strong back, weak mind.
You and I have the 0 out of 10 in common. And part of the issue that you and I both share is spatial awareness. Yes. And when I say that, I'm talking about puzzles.
Architecturally.
Yes.
Right.
Not our physical bodies,
right.
Although I have seen you break a number of things running into them. Just you wandering around.
So large.
Now, I mean, you got to know.
I mean, bull in a china shop.
You still got to know because you're a human. You're a human Tatanka in a china shop. Point is Coulter is changing residences, moving, and
what a time to do it!
It was time to move the bed. And the bed is made of steel. I mean, it's just as heavy as it can be. And what you chose not to do was just make any consideration for the size of the bed that you have and the size of the room that it's now going in.
Well, let's be clear. I have probably my nicest thing that I own is my bed that is in Bozeman. Mm-hmm. It is very big, though, and I have not been able to.
Well, if it's bigger than the bed that you got now in Missoula, which it is, you are all the more in trouble.
Yep.
Because the room, now you did by the way, this is not me. This is me meeting you on this exact same level. You go, well, yeah, I'm moving the bed into the room. This is the room. This is the bed. The bed's got to go in there. You and I moved your bed into your new bedroom. And it is, you would think that like a square inside of a square is kind of a natural fit. It sticks out 6 inches too far so that if it's up against the near wall, you can't open the door to your room. That's a problem. If you move it back, which is where you had already set up the desk, it sticks out 6 inches too far so you can't open the door to your closet, which is, unlike many closets out there, not a sliding door. Or no door at all. It is a swinging door into the room, swinging door out of the closet. And if you split the difference and put it into the middle, neither door opens. And there is, in fact, no configuration that exists for your bed as it is in this bedroom in which one of the doors is not utterly rendered useless. So you were left with the prospect of having a door perpetually opened from the closet and then shove the bed up against that so it's pinned open, thus losing about a square foot of space because it doesn't close or open flush with the wall. It kind of does the triangle thing. And then having to move the desk, which you'd already set up across, and the continuing escalation of fury that I witnessed in you trying to move around 3 tons of mattress and shift around the things that you'd already set up as you realized, you and I both in the moment, this is never going to fit unless you sleep vertically. And I want you to know that was as irritating a scenario for you as I could ever imagine. And if it had been me, every bomb that you let fly, I would have also let fly. And I would have done no such thing as who thinks that, I need to measure a bed to see if it fits in a bedroom. It's called a bedroom. Yeah. It's made to have a bed in it. Turns out this one's made for a twin-size bed, not the California King. And you, my friend, I don't know what you're going to do because you've been trying to figure out how to get that Bozeman bed over here for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Haven't done it. Now you thought, well, now that I'm going to move, I'm going to do it. And you got no chance of success with that.
Nope, I don't. Gotta save my pesos, buy a new bed. It's all good, though. I appreciate the help. I actually got it positioned now. I took that closet door off, and I think I'm going to I'm going to push it all the way up to the corner, and then I can have some leeway with the bedroom door.
Yeah,
I entered and exited my room, which means my door opens very wide.
Here's the issue. Up against that door, this is no lie, people, there is 1 foot of space between the bed and the closet. And so if you wanted to walk to your closet, which, by the way, has to have your cabinet, your chest of drawers in the closet, because there's no other place for that to go, and you can't open the drawers because the cabinet's wider than the door jamb. So it slides in, and then you kind of maneuver it and put it back against the wall. But if you, heaven forbid, put something in the bottom 3 shelves, which are the width of the cabinet itself, you can't open those.
I repositioned the dresser in the, I guess you'd call it, inner left-hand corner. No one cares. It'll be okay. I've actually got it all figured out now. I got some stuff reorganized.
I don't think it's geometrically possible for it to be organized in a way that's functional for all the things.
You want to know what's crazy?
What?
Is it's already better than my other room. Because my other room, my dresser was to the right of my bed, and I couldn't open the drawers whatsoever. So I would fall on my head while I was trying to get in the bottom drawer because I would have to lean over so far. It's amazing, man. It's crazy to think that we live in these boxes and that we think that this somehow provides value for our lives. It's much better than living in the woods, certainly. But the
just the standard, this is how you make a house.
Yeah, I mean it's just interesting. It's just interesting when you're not the one that owns it.
I mean, I don't know what to tell you, man. I just
should have been a doctor.
I admire the level of consternation that you experience because I've done it on many occasions. Tina has been mad at, it's hard for somebody to have someone mad at you for something that you're physically incapable of is frustrating.
Right.
It's not that I don't want to be helpful.
Right.
I can't be.
It's amazing how many people are just terrified of speaking in public or performing.
Oh,
and how we could go talk to I put 25,000 Washington Grizzly. I'll talk to them all day. If I have to fix something, though, it is over for me. No. It's going to take me 14 days.
Let me tell you something. Plumbers, underpaid. All the money that I got, and it ain't much, it's yours. You can do this.
No doubt.
Boys and girls.
Paradise Falls tomorrow.
Yeah, come see us at Paradise Falls. We'll be there all afternoon. Get yourself some free Hefeweizens. Get yourself tickets to Grizzly Oregon Duck football game. We'll see you at Paradise Falls tomorrow.